I want to say good afternoon. I'm Stephen Brightwell, and we're at Brown County Airport in Georgetown. It's the 19th of October, 2023. We've got VFR Day outside here at the airport, and the wind is right down runway 18, which is nice. And it's fall, and the tree colors are starting to come in. I think it's going to be a pretty season. Mm-hmm. But the reason we're here today is Charlie McKinney has invited us to his home here at the airport to share some aviation history with us regarding Brown County. And he is a fellow that was born in Brown County and spent most of his life here in Brown County. He told me he was born in a little village called Po Town, which later changed its name to Maple. And so he's been in the Hamersville, Georgetown area most of his life.
All of my life. Yeah.
And so I want to turn over to say, Charlie, thanks for having us out. This is going to be fun.
I thank you. I really would like to pass on some of the history that I've been involved in aviation.
Oh, yeah, and we're anxious to hear it. We're getting this, Jaden is recording it for us, so it'll be fun to go back and not only see how it turned out, but bring back memories.
Yeah.
Well, first I'd like to say that we'll get started, and that is in the aviation realm. When did you see your first airplane? Do you remember?
I had a brother-in-law, Dallas Warren, and he was an ex-Marine, and he was kind of a renegade, and he got into flying after he got out of World War II. And he got into the old monocoups and that type of thing. He really admired that generation, the very early generation of the aviation part of it.
And about how old were you at this time?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, let me think just a minute. I soloed in October of 62. Uh-huh. So in 62 and 33, I would have been 31 years old.
Wow.
And the bad part about that was when I got into the aviation, I wanted so bad, and I tried to get in a job, and I was too old. They wasn't interested in 30-year-old people.
I'll be darned.
They was lined up with those young 22-year-olds that had college degree that didn't fit my category.
Well, you talk about categories and abilities, and I know that, like you told me, you went to school in Hamersville.
Yes.
And it seemed like you really enjoyed the sport of basketball.
I did, very much so. I graduated in class of 16, 9 boys and 6 girls.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's 16. But anyway, and I really enjoyed the game of basketball and had moderately successful at it.
Yeah.
And it good.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of time. I remember starting when I first was probably 6 or 7 years old, and I had a basket from a wooden basket, the ring from that. My father had put it up on the garage, and I can remember going out there and playing when it was so cold and muddy that my hands was muddy, but the fingertips was clean, where you'd hold that ball.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
That was my early, really desires to be a basketball player.
Well, you talked about your dad once before. You had mentioned a couple of innovations that he developed on the farm. I think one was using a windmill, was it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I remember the windmill, and we'd charge a battery with the windmill down and charge the battery, and then take the battery and take it to the house, hook it up to the radio, and I guess we just had 2 because I'd take that battery out that would run down and go out and put it on the windmill again and charge it that way. That was before electricity. We didn't get electricity until 1942.
Really?
When the war started, and my mother started work at Wright Aeronautical. It was not GE at that time,
right.
And it was out in Evendale.
Evendale.
And you imagine going from Hamersville or Po Town
yeah.
every day in a 30s model car and she worked out there all during the war.
Wow.
And I've often laughed. I said, "Mom, what did you do?" She said, "They give me this little part," and she said, "Make this out of it." And I never knew what it was for all the 5, 6 years while the war went on. She didn't know what she was making.
Amazing.
They wouldn't tell her.
That's amazing. Well, I once knew a fella that lived in my neighborhood in Cincinnati, and he worked there during the war.
Right.
Same thing. His job was simply to polish a certain metal
Yeah.
part that came
Yeah.
through, and
Had to
he
be.
didn't know what they were for,
Yeah.
but they got it done. They worked, at all kind of odd hours if necessary, and so I can believe what you're saying. She drive all the way to Evendale from out here every day, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know how, and I've done it too, but I just don't know how desperate we had to be to drive every day. And I've worked down there 6 days a week, 10 hours a day.
Yeah, wow.
And
Well,
I think too, right along that period of time would be interesting to most people. We still had the phone on the wall that you cranked,
Yeah,
and the lady's name in Hammersville was Myrtle Montgomery. And that was it's the gas station that was there now was the owner's when she was, and I was 14, 15 years old. And anyway, now I have a broken line of thought there. But, we did not have, we had the charger on the windmill charger for the radio. That's the way we got our information. We didn't have electricity in the house at that time. And it was a lead lamp, if you've ever heard of a lead lamp.
yes.
And it was a lead lamp, and Mom was so scared it was going to burn the house down. So we was never allowed to carry it or anything like that. Well, then finally we got to a place where we had a little bitty lamp, it had a handle on it and everything like that. And she let us go from the milk house into the house and listen to the radio. And we didn't have TV. And so that was my brother and I, and we had the phone on the wall, and you cranked it, and you said, "Myrtle, get me 97."
Yeah.
And that would be maybe my aunt, and I could talk to my aunt on the phone. It was a
Amazing.
crank type.
Amazing. It's amazing it took that long for power lines to work their way to the community down
yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Well, it's so you had an interesting beginning on the farm. Innovation was necessary to make daily life comfortable. Obviously, the energy and dedication was in the family to make a living, to progress forward. And then, like you said, after the war, you got interested in aviation. And what you were saying, I'm sure after the war, there were a lot of veterans that came out that had a lot of training that, of course, you didn't have at that point. And they got to the front of the line when it came to civilian jobs in aviation. But, okay, you talked about when you saw the first plane. How about when you got your first ride? What plane were you in? Where was it?
There was a airport behind what we called Throckmorton's Motel, which was, if you go past the court or the court procedure or court places, those buildings, right there was a motel, and it's still there. But then back that street was called Northland Subdivision.
Okay.
And this fellow that was the alcoholic, Bernard Wall, was building houses back there. Well, he had bought a parcel of land, and it was probably, I think it was about 1,700 feet long, and it had a lake on one end and big tall trees on the other.
Of course.
And I've shot that many times at midnight when I'd come back from Florida, and our rule was we come and buzz the town. And Bernard and his wife, I remember one time Bernard and his wife jumped up, come up. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. And what we'd learned to do was take 2 automobiles. Okay, this is the runway right here.
Okay.
Automobile here facing this way, automobile here facing this way. throwed lights across here and didn't blind you or anything when you set it down. So those two was evident. And this one particular time I think is very amazing, or better, interesting. She was in her nightgown, and it was very sheer. And I'll never forget, she was standing in front of the car, and we was coming into land, my wife and I and 6 kids. And you could see the poor lady just as plain as if she was nude. The lights showed through that nightgown. But anyway, we got in and got stopped safely and everything like that. I think that part of it is. Why does that always stick in my head?
Well, it's different. It's different. We don't have many incidents like that. Oh, that's a good.
I can see it yet today.
Now that was in Hamersville.
No.
No.
That was in behind what we call Throckmorton's Motel.
Oh, over here then.
Yeah, and
okay.
it became the old. They put a assisted living in there, and then
right.
And then it went out, and then they built the subdivision up a lot more than it was when he started. It had about 6 or 8 houses.
Yeah.
And but that was where the very early part. And then it became pretty popular, and then we moved probably 4 or 5 times after that before this airport went in.
Yeah.
And
well, so with the people, did you think that folks were beginning to take an interest in aviation in Brown County? Obviously, it caught your interest.
Almost the constant, the exact opposite. They were very reluctant. They didn't like the noise, and they wasn't very popular at all until a little bit later, when we got into it. Like then the guys said, "Well, I'd like to do that," so they come out and take a ride and say, "Hey, can I tell lessons too?" Yeah. And that's basically the way later on, and then especially after the airport came in here, it was much nicer. But before then, we went from Throckmorton's Motel to Bob Cottine. It's got an airport right just about a mile and a half, right straight over there, and the runway run east and west just on a farm.
Okay.
And then I landed on a farm right across my house down here on 774, so that'd be Bob Cottine's and McKinney's and Lou Liming. Lou Liming was if you go off there at right at the top of the hill, if you turn there and go over to Feesburg, there's a big farm over there that I own now, and he had 3,500 feet running 2 different directions. It was beautiful, and had I think at that one time a J3 or something like that. Well, then we flew off of that for a short while, and then north of Walsburg, and me and about 2 other people only flew in there, but the first big field on the east, be this side of the road. What would it be? East side of the road, at where the Walsburg store is, and we'd come in. We could make a land towards the 68 this way, and had an airstrip there. Then we went from there to Walsburg. Went out here to Bob Cottine's, and then we moved out of Bob Cottine's in on this place in the year that came in. So that's the one that I flew off of.
Right.
Those are different years.
Well, I remember you spoke of Lou Liming.
Yeah.
And I knew him through the EAA chapter at Claremont County.
Oh, did you?
And I remember, I believe he had a small Cessna. Did he have a 150 or 52?
Yes, he did have.
He may have had a home built. I don't know if it was.
He did. He had home built too.
Yeah. And he would come to the meetings with his dog.
Yeah.
He'd put his dog in the airplane.
Little old,
Yes.
little, what do they call
Little
them?
lap dog.
Yeah, lap dog. That's what I was trying to think of.
Yeah, that was.
Let me tell you that. I got to tell you that story then. I kind of get carried away. You refresh it. That same dog, well, after that, they got another dog, but then they moved out on a farm, and that was another airport, and I don't even have it down here. But anyway, Lulamming had an airport, and it was on the west side of White Oak Creek, down from the new road about 2 miles. Well, I went over to visit him one day, and he was out and I was shooting the breeze, and he had a 150 at that time, and I landed, and I think I had the second airplane was a 150, and we landed and chatted, and he yawed around and everything like that, you know, and he had a beautiful big dog, and she just absolutely worshipped it. And he told her when we started talking, he said, keep the dog up at the house, don't let him come down here. Well, when I started the airplane, the dog, I don't know what to this day, but he went around the hangar and came back out and came up behind me. And I give it the power to take off, and the dog, pow, like that, he jumped, grabbed that propeller, and it actually cut him, it cut half his head off.
Oh my.
And
Oh wow.
I shut it down, and he said, better come get your dog, he's dead. And I could hear her scream yet today.
Oh boy. Oh, that's trauma. Yeah.
What can you do?
Couldn't do anything. Yeah, I mean, you didn't even see the dog.
No, he came this direction. I know he came out, I don't know if I paid any attention, but when he came out, he had went around the hangar and came up behind me instead of up in front. But when he looked at that propeller, he just grabbed that dude like that, and when it hit, I knew exactly what it was.
Right. Well,
And you feel like just about that much.
I saw that happen myself one time down in Virginia. A Cherokee was taxiing out, and these two little dogs got away from this lady. She was basically just sightseeing, watching airplanes.
Yeah.
And for some reason, they decided to crawl under the fence and chase an airplane. And as it taxied along, there was a dog on either side of the airplane right at the prop tips. I don't know if it was the noise or the sun reflecting off the propellers or what.
I think it's that whirling thing that it excites them or something.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is. I don't know how many I've seen.
Yeah.
We left here one morning, we used to go out Sunday morning, go down to that Aberdeen airport, and we stopped, had the damn 175 Cessna, and all the airplanes would sit outside, you know.
Sure.
And it rained, and then they had them old sunken places for their gas caps, you know. You know how the Cessnas was, top of the wing. Well, we drained it out in Pepsi bottle, you know. We drained it. Hell, we had a half of water in it.
Oh boy.
So we dumped that out. We did it. We shook the wings, and we did everything like that, you know. It's important to get out and get that breakfast Sunday morning.
Yeah.
So anyway, he said, she'll be all right now. I said, she'll go. And we went up there, got just about a little place past the Amish place. She coughed one time.
Oh.
I thought, don't you? Bernard, I said, we got a problem. I said, she'll be all right. I said, run her wide open. So we run her wide open and got just about down there to where the cemetery is. She coughed a couple, 3 more times, and I said, Bernard, she ain't gonna make it. I said, you find me a field to land this sucker in.
Wow.
Well, they had what they called the experimental farm there at that time. Nice grassed area, you know, they had all kind of different kinds of grasses and things like that, you know. So I put in, made me a nice landing area, and we was probably, from here down to the first building down there from the guy's house. He's standing up there looking, he said, what the hell is that? An airplane sitting in his field, you know.
Yeah.
Here he come. down there, and he said, "What you guys? What's wrong?" And he said, "Well, looks like we're going out of gas." I said, "You ain't any gas up there that we could buy from you?" And he said, "Oh, sure." He said, so we go back up there, and he gets us a 5-gallon can. It's probably from here to the end of the airport. We was walking that far. So we got the gasoline, went up there, and you could stand up on the, the strut was like that. So you know how we used to do the 150s. That was a good ladder. You got up there to the gas tap and things like that.
Right.
So anyway, we got the gas in there and everything like that, and said, "How much can I pay you?" He said, "Nothing." He said, "It's the first time it's ever been an airplane landing here."
How about that?
So we ended up killing his dog and cut its head half in two.
Oh.
And apologized to the guy and everything like that. I think altogether I probably killed a couple, 3 dogs. Not intentionally, but it just
There's something about that propeller.
They just can't understand that fast thing.
Yeah, the noise, the wind, the reflection. I agree. There's something.
So we went on down, had our breakfast and everything over there, and couldn't say too much about it. But
Yeah.
right at that time, there was another, I thought, a little interesting thing. I think I traded that airplane for a 170 Cessna, and it was a nice airplane. We flew it up in Michigan. We could take the kids up there and fish and stuff like that. And one Sunday, the guy called me. He said, "Hey," he said, "I understand you want to sell that 170." And I said, "Yeah, I got it for sale." And he said, what are you thinking?" This was a doll baby, $5,500 now.
I hear you.
Big money.
Yeah.
In 1962. And anyway, I said, "Okay, come on and get her." And he got up and come up and got it. He got three guys, 2 besides himself, that was pilots down at Aberdeen, which it was old. Really, that was World War II. There was a trainer kind of thing there.
Okay.
And so he bought it on a Saturday, and the next Sunday on they was him and his 2 of his buddies going to take it out for the first time. All 3 was pilots, all good pilots, just average first pilot, and then they piled into it and went to the downriver, and it was pretty hot. 3 guys, grass strip, 1,600 or 1,700 foot. They started rolling. The one guy said, "You ain't gonna make it." Said, "We better quit. Shut her off." "No, we'll be all right." Well, they got about 35 feet up on a 50-foot tree and hit it.
Wow.
I got a picture if I could find it. There was only one part of the small horizontal tail feathers that was intact. Oh. It tore that airplane up so bad. Now 2 in the front seat, 1 in the back seat, tore the wings off of it. It was just absolutely, it wasn't an airplane more, it was just a pile of metal.
Wow.
It was that bad. And 5 days exactly from the time he gave me a check to the time it was piled out there.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Now, did they survive that?
They walked back up to the restaurant and finished their breakfast. They never had a scratch on any one of the 3.
Whoa.
And the airplane was actually, I don't know where they clubbed down the tree, but it was basically stuck into the tree.
Good grief.
And one was saying, "No, you can be all right." The other said, "You better shut her off." And there were 3 pilots on board. Yeah. All of them was private pilots.
Oh, boy.
Everybody had their own opinions.
Yeah. Oh, what a story. My goodness.
I got pictures of them someplace I could dig them out. But anyway, it's just kind of...
Well, you mentioned something in that story, Aberdeen. You said something about there was some military training there during the Second War?
I don't know exactly. I knew about the one Bethel a little bit more than I did the one at Aberdeen because, well, that's where we went to get groceries, get our supplies and things. So there was an airport went in there right after World War II, and I got that on here. I got to chatting with a guy the other day, and he texted me the newspaper clipping of where this airport was, and just as you come out of there, there's a road comes out, just be almost across the street, and I think there's a 7-Eleven or something like that right there. But if you go back there and then go east again, he put in 2 runways, and he was a machine gunner in a B-29. They called him Akak. His name was Akak. I can't think of his last name right now. He put that airport in, and everybody just went crazy over it. Everybody wanted to fly,
Yeah.
and it was all just old Cubs and Chiefs and Stetsons and just, back that many years.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, is that the one that's off of Airport Road?
Yep.
That's
That's it.
off of 125
Yeah,
Airport
yeah.
Road?
If you turn to the right there, go back here, and then there's 2 streets now,
Yeah.
like that.
Yes.
That was the old runways. Well, it was really booming. There was all the business people up here that had the bucks. Everybody else was poor at that time.
Yeah.
But if you had the bucks, you go down there, take lessons.
I'll be darned.
So they did, and then the first thing you know, somebody got a biplane, and they was doing aerobatics. And they came in one day, and Spencer was his name, and the other guy's name I can't think of. They got too low and hit the wires, and they crashed and burnt in the middle of the road in 125.
Wow.
And that was the end of the airport.
Yeah. Well, I guess it was back in the summer. I went into a store down there, and there was this young lady behind the cash register checking me out. And I had mentioned, I said, have you been to an airport down here recently? And she goes, well, there's a road named Airport.
That's it.
Is there supposed to be an airport down there?
It was the end of that
She's
road.
a very young gal. She didn't know anything about it.
All the
And
dirt.
I knew, to back up what you're saying about a lot of people used that airport, for flight school. You remember Kerry Hutchison,
Yep.
farmer. He did a lot of flying out of there, and he talked about, like you said, there were a lot of tail draggers in there.
Yeah.
And a lot of experience where you could get your ticket.
Fresh out of the military, there was a lot of them. Even the guys that was mechanics and different things like that, they didn't fly, but when they got the bug, and boy, just as soon as they got home, all of them wanted to get some flying time in.
Right.
But when them 2 guys got killed, and it was such a tragedy thing, and so many people saw it, that it just gradually, and they lost interest, and it just gradually, they started building houses back there in the streets. I can go back there, and it's hard for me to, but I can still see where the runway goes north and then into crossroads, things like that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of houses built back there now.
Yeah. Is there an airstrip there at all now?
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
No,
That's amazing.
That
Well,
done it. It's shut her down.
Gotcha.
Basically.
Well, that's interesting. Well, it is. You're talking about these grass strips that used to be on farms in the area, and so were a lot of these guys have their own airplanes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where during that time period, were a lot of airplanes, I'm sure, were secondhand. They kind of bought from people here and there. Was there any dealerships or anything around this area?
No.
Okay.
Closest thing was Lunkin. And I don't know. That goes back before I got into it. That's about the time I did get into it, because of my brother-in-law. He had a 32 monocoupe. And just want to tell you a little bit of story about that. He was a hot dogger, and I'd be in Hamersville and pumping gas there at the gas station, and he'd come from Columbus down, upside down Hamersville, and the trees, he was so close he would move the tree limbs and fly the whole thing. And he was nothing but a foot soldier, but when he come back, he had aviation bug bad.
Yeah.
And he built this monocoop, and he got killed in it. I was up there one day, and he cut his arm. He cut his arm bad, and he was an ex-Marine, and that ain't no good. That ain't no problem, you know. We lost a lot of blood, and then he was practicing to do aerobatics on a kind of the circle, you know, doing aerobatics.
Yeah.
And he went up, and they said he'd done a kind of a loop like, and said she fell over, and she came right straight down, and they figured he hit the ground at 300 mile an hour.
Ouch.
And my brother, his brother, and I was brother-in-law, and we went up there, and I got a picture of it. Is tore up so bad, if you didn't know, you couldn't even tell it was an airplane.
Wow.
It just literally exploded. The fabric and everything was there, but it was on top of the ground. And the motor, I'd say the motor was at least that far in the ground.
Good grief. That was a big radio, wasn't it?
It was, big round radio, 220. And he says, "What do you think?" I said, "Well, hell, it ain't good. We covered it up." And as far as I know, that radio's there today.
I'll be darned.
I've been back out there, and I don't know it's built up so bad, or it's not built up so bad. It's built up so much. I had found the woods, but I walked it probably 15, 20 years ago, and I couldn't find it.
Mm-hmm.
But the funny part of it, somebody kept the one little piece of aileron or what something that had the N number on it, and that N number is flying in, what's the name of the town right south of Fort Myers, big town? Naples? No, is it Naples?
I don't know.
Anyway, the big town right below Naples, that number is still on a monocoop that a guy's got down there.
Wow. What a story.
Yeah.
Isn't that something? Yeah.
And I got the picture and everything of that airplane. It was beautiful. It was black and white, had black and white scallops on it.
No.
It was a doll baby,
I
but he
bet.
put her in.
Amazing. Well, you know, you talk about that accident. How common were aviation accidents?
After World War II, pretty common.
And maybe a lot of people were getting into aviation.
Well, a lot of guys was in the military, and they just see their buddies take off an airplane and fly, and they said, "Man, I'd like to be doing that." And they come home, and all of them become fighter pilots.
Gotcha. Yeah.
They didn't have the practice. They didn't have the background that you got with if he was a professional, trained military man. And there was a lot of accidents.
Yeah.
A lot of guys killed themselves.
I wondered about that.
Yeah.
Sure enough. Well, so you got into aviation. Where'd you get your private ticket? Who signed you off? Who instructed you?
Don Fairbanks.
Don Fairbanks?
All of my training, all the way through, up until I got my instructor's rating,
Yeah.
and he kept dragging me along, and I thought, damn, I ought to be finished up. I don't know of anything I want to do. But finally, I said, God damn it, you're going to be in competition with him.
Business-wise?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'd
yeah.
take the people out here, would be my students.
Yeah, yeah.
So finally, it hit this old dumb boy. I said, hell, you ain't never going to get your instructor's rating. So I told my wife, I said, I got to go and get my instructor's rating. I said, Plan, let's take a vacation, you and the kids. And we went to Panama City, and it was sold aviation.
Okay.
Nice, real sharp, good outfit. I flew a minimum of 5 hours every day. And I'll never forget the last day. They were government agents. What would he be? Inspector?
Yeah.
Okay. He come out. They asked me at 9 o'clock in the morning. They said, "Hey," said, "who wants to be first?" I said, "Me," because I said if I win or lose, I said I got to go back to work. I had a job that I'd been off, and I took a day off. So I remember I flew every day for about 3 hours. We'd fly every day now.
Okay.
And Sunday or Saturday morning, we got up. There's 9 guys in there. They got their lesson. The old boy stood up front and he said, "Okay." He said, "Who wants to be first?" I said, "Me," like that.
Yeah.
I said, "Well, I don't care whether I get it or not get it. I got to go home. I got a good job." He said, "You're first." So we went up and we flew for a couple hours with the check ride, and we did spins left and right, everything. Hell, you don't do that in 150 today. We did it regularly.
Right. Right.
It spins beautifully, just as easy. Never goes to speed, just keeps on going, you know. So he said, "Okay." I said, "We're good." He said, take me down. We went down and said, "I'm getting up and unbuckled." And he said, "I want you to go up and do me 3-turn spin, both left and right." And I said, I thought to myself, "Well, you damn pussy, you ain't gonna ride with me."
Let me out first.
So I thought, "Shit, I got to get this over with." So I jumped that old thing and back up. I went far as I could, quick as I could. I had to go to 4,500 feet. And I could see right there on the airport, hell, you just look like he's about that big.
Yeah.
And I did what he told me. He said, "I want 3-turn spin." So I did 3 like this and come down. And you know, you just put that in perspective today.
Oh.
Hell, you don't see no students or anybody do this, but spin.
An approach to stall.
If it got in a stall like that, they wouldn't know what the hell to do to stop it. And it's one of the things that they should still make you do. Learn to control that airplane if it does get out of shape.
Yeah.
So anyway, make a long story on that. I went up, did my 3-turn spin both ways, come back up, and you know how it takes, what is it, 75, 80 degrees a day at 150.
Wow.
How long it takes you to do this.
That's right.
You're on the ground, then you go up and you do your spins, and then you have to the right, and then you have to turn around and climb back up again and do them to the left. Well, anyway, got down there and he said, "Did a good job." I said, "It's good. I'm gone."
Great. Good for you.
But Don Fairbanks, he was smart enough to realize, he said, "Charlie's going to go out there to Bound County and he's going to start instructing."
I see.
Which he was right. That's what I had in mind.
Oh, wow. Well, you talk about I guess you got what, maybe your private and your commercial. Did you do your instrument then?
I think I got every rating that I can think of without airline.
But a lot of that was at Lunkin at the time.
Oh, all of it. I had all of mine. Don got my helicopter, and Pat, she rode with me while I was doing my helicopter, and Joe Babbitt, I don't know if you remember Joe Babbitt or not.
I do remember.
I rode a lot with Joe Babbitt, but I got my private, my commercial, my multi-engines, my seaplane. Got to tell you a story about the seaplane. We had an old champ on floats, ragged old supper sitting down there in the river. And I think the thing that I really wanted to tell you, we used to fly underneath the bridges, come up and look at the look at the major airport down there.
Oh,
We'd
yeah.
come right up there with the major airport. We'd go under the bridge all the way down, three or four bridges in there.
So you through downtown.
Yeah, and the amazing part of it, when you see that the hole and that underneath that bridge,
Right.
and some of it looks about that big. You're doing a maximum of 80 miles an hour in a Cub or a Champ, and I go most of my time in the Champ. And you look at it and you think, I ain't never gonna get through that something. And when you go through that hole, you probably got 200 feet on each side of you. It's a monstrous big hole.
Yeah, big
that
arch.
you go through. And we'd go through that dude just for the fun of it, go down and make a bend and come back the other direction.
And it would go by fast, wouldn't it?
Oh,
when
man,
you went
it's
through that hole, it was...
Well, the first time I saw it, looked like it was just about that big, but there ain't no way I get through that son of a bit.
Yeah.
But the closer you get there, when you get to it, my God, you got, it's probably half far through that runway.
Right.
The wingtips ain't even close.
Amazing. Well, did you ever have any people on the river waving at you?
Oh,
or-
yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yes.
I bet.
And then I went ahead and they gave me my float plane rating. Said we go down there and play on the river in the float planes.
I'll be darned. Well, you mentioned you got your helicopter rating down there.
Through Don.
What sent you towards rotorcraft? Just because they were there?
No, well, I guess I got to the place where I just enjoyed it so much. I just went from one thing to the next.
Yeah. Okay.
And that somebody came out here, I think one time, we ended up getting we had a spray plane. We sprayed for a couple of years, wrecked it, tore it up. But I think the fact that it's so unique in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And I never forget one time we went, what is it, Crew Towers they got a helicopter pad on top.
I didn't know that.
Well, one of the big stores down there has got a pad on top.
Okay.
And I think I always will remember this. We went in and landed. I didn't think it was too big. You know, you went in and landed and everything. And John and I, Don and I was laughing different about it. And I said, man, this is really neat. But when we took off and the ground dropped away from me just like his, my behind must have struck up that side.
Oh boy, that's a tall building. I can only imagine. Yeah.
And when he looked down, all the cars and things like that, I thought, boy, if I fall down there, the end don't fall, don't kill me, the damn cars will run over me.
Good story.
We only done that a few times with the helicopter. Yeah. Pat and Joe Terriaca. Did you know Joe?
I didn't know him.
Never did know him. Well, Joe and I got 90% of my experience with him. And we was out. I had bought an old twin engine Piper, the very first one.
Like an Aztec or something?
150 horses, sicker than anything, and was flying at almost 1,700 feet of gas over there when it just barely was missing the fence post when you went out. It was that bad.
Yeah.
So we was out there one day, and he was giving me my check ride for the multi engine. He said, shut that left one down. I said, shut that dude down, boy. When she goes like that, you know, you got to get her up like this. And it was the right engine we lost. And anyway, we was at that attitude.
Right.
And he said, okay. She started her back up again. That son of a bitch wouldn't start. I looked at the airspeed, or the rate of climb, and it was losing about 250, 300 foot a minute.
Uh-oh.
And it was over the power plant at New Richmond.
Okay.
We got to McKinney.
Now,
he said,
just a sidebar, did you work there at that time?
Who?
Did you work at the power plant at that time?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just, so you.
Anyways, at Headford Airport, he was panicking now. We were only at about 2,500 feet or something like that. And a few minutes, he said, we ain't gonna make it. I said, don't you think we glide that far? And he said, hell no. He said, look where we're at. And he said, find us someplace. I said, there's a golf course right there about Washington. I said, I can make it on that golf course. He said, can you land in there? And I said, yes. I fly out of something better than that every day, or worse than that.
Worse.
So I started my pattern, and he's still fiddling with it and cranking it. And of course, the lucky part of it, you still had a motor running, which is putting juice back in the battery.
Right.
So we getting some juice back in the battery, and the old prop was going,
Yeah.
like that, and she caught, and I thought, boy,
oh boy.
let's get this sucker on the ground.
That's right. Wave to the ones on the golf course and go.
So we got back safely, but he was a flight instructor for Don Fairbanks and Pat, and he was a bachelor, but he was a character. We had some really good times together.
Well, it sounds like Lunken was really a busy place.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I can remember when it had the old dot, 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 dash, dot, dot, dot.
Right, right.
You get off course, go da, 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 da.
Right.
That's when I first started flying. It was still in existence. It was the last one in the United States to be decommissioned.
Yeah, I'll be darned.
Yeah.
Well, so you got so many ratings. You went to Florida. You got your CFI. You came back out this way, and so did people start looking you up to learn to fly? How did you begin to teach people?
I gave a couple of guys an hour's training before I had my instructor's rating.
Oh, I see.
They was that way. The guys was wanting to fly so bad, and I said, "Well, I don't have the rating yet, but I know what I have to do to give you your instruction." And just roughly, I was looking here to get a private commercial multi-engine gyrocopters, spray plane, glider, flight instructor, ground instructor, gyrocopter, and light sport license.
Yeah. Oh boy.
And I enjoyed every one of the tests and things like that. You sweat them, things like that. But
yeah. Oh,
that's just.
I can tell you enjoy aviation.
Oh, I still do. And I went through a pretty bad sick spell, and I give up. I kind of lost confidence. A guy come in here the other day. I'd flown for 5 years. I got a little RV-6, and they're a fast little airplane, and they're pretty damn. It takes a pretty good pilot to fly them, but they're the fastest thing out there for the money. And I said, "Well, I got to have that airplane." And he said, "You ain't flying it." And I said, "Okay." So we went up, and he didn't know. He's asked him to hold the ground about it. He didn't know what a constant speed drop was, and I just never even thought about it. And I said, Get out and land." And I went through the landing to make sure, hell, he was this way and that way, and he was this way, and I got it on the ground. I said, "Let me have it." Now, not thinking, I hadn't been flying for 5 years, and I jumped in the left seat, and that thing, out we went, and troubled back at the prop and everything like that, got her all straightened up, and I said, "There it is. This is the way that you do it."
Yeah.
And didn't realize it until I got back on the ground. And I thought, "You dumbass, you ain't been flying for 5 years." But it was all the past training and what little experience I had. It was still there.
Right there.
It didn't disappear. And if I had it to do over, I wouldn't have done it. But I was kind of aggravated at the time because he was kind of putting my airplane down.
Right.
And I knew that there was nothing wrong with the airplane. He was a pilot, and he had never had a constant speed prop.
Oh.
He didn't know how in the hell to do that or anything.
Right.
Well, when I got up there and then saw where he was at, that I come down, I said, let me take it up. And I just jumped in the left seat there, and we were in it. And I thought afterwards, I thought, man, that was a dumb thing to do. You could have been rude about me there. But after that many hours and everything like that, it was just a natural thing. It was just like breathing.
Right.
You've just done it so many.
Well, I think you're right when it comes to the natural things you've learned, and you deal with aerodynamics, first of all.
Yeah.
What makes the thing, what keeps it in the air?
Yeah.
And then the different pieces of equipment or abilities of the machine you happen to be in.
Yeah.
You're familiar with that. Like you said, it's constant speed prop. And for that matter, the air speeds at landing or takeoff, whether you use flaps or not, all of these things can be judgment, which you have collected over the years, like I said, with all these logbooks and all the different equipment that you've been in. That's a marvelous talent, just marvelous talent.
I guess the fact that I did have this, unbeknownst to me really, they had this skill that was still in my body and things like that, and to be able to do that, because after I came back, I kind of got scared myself. I thought, I shouldn't have done that.
Oh, well, I see your point. I see your point.
If you haven't flown for 5 years
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you get in that little airplane, it's pretty slippery. And nothing,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't say it's out of the ordinary for anybody to fly it, but I hadn't flown it for 5 years.
Right. Well, you're a talented guy. And that kind of, you recognized the problems that were going on. You were in the right seat. You recognized what was happening. And you thought, this fella, he just doesn't have the experience for this type of equipment. And it just swelled up in you like, I've got to go, number one, to see that the airplane is flying right. It's him, not the airplane.
And I was trying to sell it.
And try to sell it and try to teach.
Yeah.
It comes back to the ability to teach what you know.
Yeah.
And obviously you've got the record on that. Speaking of teaching, do you have a number as far as students that you ever taught, private or anything? How many?
Golly, they're all in that book, those books
all
there.
in these log books.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, did you do teach instrument?
I had every rating except the airline.
Wow.
Ground school. And other than that, and all of mostly of the Fairbanks, Joe Terriaca, and Pat. I got almost all my ratings, including helicopter and float plane and that type of thing.
Yeah. Well, it's that is so interesting, your background there. And so earlier we had talked about you had flown over the power plant in New Richmond, headed into Lunkin, and you had worked there for a while. How about telling us the story of the development of this airport related to that building you told me about? Now, wasn't it Governor Rhodes?
Yeah.
That he wanted an airport in every Ohio county.
That was his move when we put him in. He said, I want a all-weather airport in every county in Brown County and the state of Ohio. And if it runs in my mind, there was about 79 airports in different counties at that time they was put in like this one. And
Now, when you go down to the FBO, they've got that map on the wall. It shows airport property and land.
yeah.
How did they choose this particular property and orientation?
Well, that's kind of funny because there was a guy named Ned Swearingen, and he had a 175 Cessna, and we were good buddies. We was flying together, and I told him, I said, Ned, we need something better than that one over there.
The grass strip back
Yeah.
there.
So this farm was for sale. Me and Ned walked it. I could tell you exactly where the fence post is and everything. That tree was on the property line.
Yeah.
We walked it, but I said, you want to go ahead and partners on it? 78 acres, 105,000.
Okay.
And
And about when was this, date-wise?
1968.
Okay, late 60s.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm pretty positive on that.
Well, go on with the story.
Okay,
about
okay.
the farm.
But anyway, I've lost my train of thought.
Well,
When he told me,
we were talking about getting the property.
okay, we looked at this property and we said, hey, he said, I think it's make a nice one, be close town and everything like that. And I said, you want to go partners on it? He said, yes. And we kicked it around a little bit, wasn't no big deal. And first thing you know, he said, somebody said, we want to get an airport. Said, Rhodes wanted one in every county. And so we kind of backed off. We said, well, that'd be fine. Well, as luck would have it, they was the one that the county bought this land when we was looking at it to buy for a private airport,
Oh, darn. Yeah.
So that was the way this came about. And then October the 30th or something like that, in 68, that's where I got that picture there. It might be in there where we got the picture, but anyway, that was when the airport went in 68, and he told everybody, he said, we're going to have an all-weather airport in every county in the state of Ohio. And he put them in between 68 and 71. Well, then the airport was dedicated at 71.
Okay.
Well, at that time, I had been instructed out of Bob Cottpede's farm right over there. So we basically just waited, and they come in and put a little old building up, wasn't big enough for a restroom really. And I went down, was on the construction site there that was telling you about the one that I got, and come up here and build it.
Back Georgia, the power plant, CG&E.
And then went along pretty one winter, and I was down in Florida, building down there, and some of the kids or something said, "Dad, you know that they're building a new building up at Brown County?" And I said, "No." Now my building and everything was all unique and everything like that, or one piece ready to, just like we'd been using it for 15 years.
Uh-huh.
When I came home in May that year, it was laying in a pile over on the next lot of where that one's sitting now.
Wow.
It's come in here and knocked that house, didn't say shit or shine all about it, and put a new one up.
Well, let's back up a year or so. Let's tell everybody about how you got that first building, how expensive it was.
Okay. Well, I was in the power plant, and that year would have been about 68, something like that. And I was flying out there over Cottines, and the guy came to me one day, and I was a master student in the union down there, and he said, "Hey," he said, they're getting rid of some buildings over here. Can you use any buildings up at the airport? And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, we'll talk to this guy." So we went over to talk to him, and I told him a story. I said, "We really could use a building if you could sell us one or something like that." And we chatted for a little while. I think he kind of maybe fell down a little bit, you know. And I said, "Would you consider selling me one of them?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "I think so." So I said, "What are you thinking about?" He said, "How about $1?"
$1.
Well, you could have knocked me over with a feather. I was thinking at least 10,000, 5,000. Hell, this was 150 feet. It'd be 37 feet wide.
Wow.
Or 36 feet wide.
And you say it was a metal building.
And it was just an all metal building with slab, and then had a bunch of places for lockers for guys to change their clothes in there every evening, take a shower and get ready to go home, get out of their dirty clothes. Right. And that's what they was using it for. So then, after I got the building bought, and I had probably about, on an average, I had about 15, 17 guys. Some of them would start, some of them go ahead and finish, and some of them wouldn't, you know. And I said, "Hey guys," I said, "I know I could get a real nice building, but I need some help." And I had the junkyard down there, and had a big old long 24-foot flatbed. And we down there and tore that building down, and took 2 weekends. I'm talking about 14, 15 guys, but you get a lot of work done with that many guys that are like they were back then, where they worked their hands and they knew how to do things.
A lot of farm work.
Yeah. And so we knocked that dude down and took 2 Saturday and Sundays to move it up here and put it up down over here.
Wow.
And the funny part about it, not funny part about it, but back then, I look back on it and I think, how does something like this happen without any plans? Because we had a guy who was an electrician, we had a guy who was a plumber, we had a guy that was something else, concrete, we had that Bernard wall I was telling you about. Hell, he poured that, and we had volunteer work. We poured, it ended up being the 90s. Half of that was 96, or maybe not wooden. But anyway, we built the slab, and another guy was an air conditioner man, and we put the building up, put a dividing wall in it, made an office and everything like that in there, put our furnace, all that kind of stuff in the back part of it, and storage for anybody want to put something in there and lock it up, you know, for the weekend.
Right.
And the county never put the first damn dime, never came out here and looked at it or nothing. The county engineer, and he should have been here. This was county property.
Now, with your building, was it where this building is now?
Same slab.
has the airport always had this runway and the ramp and apron, all that's original? It hasn't been changed?
No.
Okay. Now, how about, I was curious.
Well, now, that was, that was basically, that wasn't blacktop probably for 5 or 6 years. It was just nothing but grass. And finally we did get gas in here. I carried gasoline in and parked a pickup truck down at the end of the road before that road out there was ever built.
Oh, okay. The
Now,
road at the end of the runway.
Yeah, well, it was, yeah, out on the end of it. And I'd put a pickup truck down there, and the guys would actually taxi their airplanes down there. And most of it was Cubs and you know, cheap stuff. It wasn't nothing expensive,
Right,
or they
right.
wouldn't have done it.
Right.
And they go down there, and we'd actually fill the airplane out of the barrel in the truck into the wing of the airplane, and that's where I sold gasoline like that till the building went in, and then finally they got the thing. Yeah.
The tank
And that's
farm.
something else I'd think about too. And a lot of people don't realize it, but Sandy and Steve and I have really done it, and I'm not trying to brag or anything like that. It's just the way it happened. But I just gave Sandy $12,000 last week to buy gasoline. Wow. It's been that way ever since this airport's been in here. We have put the gasoline in out of our own pocket.
Wow. Did not know
to
that.
keep it go.
Yeah. Wow.
And that's just for the 80. That damn bill on that other one's about $16,000 or $17,000. You start picking $16,000 out of your pocket,
That's ouch. Yeah. My goodness.
Nobody
is
knows
news.
that.
No.
We never complained about it.
Yeah.
I get pissed in the mood when I'm thinking about it myself.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, and as an aviator that uses fuel, I thank you and your family for making it available.
It was something at the time it needed to be done, and it was somebody that I was involved because I was really generating money from it.
Yeah.
So I was interested in keeping it going.
Sure.
And you know, if you're successful, you automatically got to be doing drugs. That's people's thoughts. If you're making money and they ain't making it, well, some of it's selling drugs. Well, I had that reputation of never ever have smoked a cigarette or ever sold one of them suckers. And I've spent many hours with the sheriff's department side of me finding them in cornfields.
Oh.
We'd go out and search down. This is way back in the very beginning when the damn stuff was just coming into here.
Okay.
Never have smoked the first joint. Wouldn't even know what it was if I did smoke it. But been accused of it. I was packing it out of Florida, bringing it back and forth. That's the reason I was going to Florida.
Oh boy.
You know.
Oh.
And it's been pretty easy, but they never, the county, until we got the new county engineer, never did nothing for this airport. It was all done by the Pilots Association, and let's see, at one time we had 50.
Yeah, you showed me the plaque with all the signatures. That's very impressive.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, it's a wonderful airport. I mean, it's always kept in good shape.
Yeah.
It's fun to be out here because, well, it's uncontrolled. You don't have to work through approach and tower, to get into the place, and it's not crowded. I mean, if there was a little more traffic to buy fuel, that would be nice. But yeah, you can, it's Unicom. It's what I think of as a nice countryside airport, and it would just be a wonderful place for people to learn to fly.
Yeah.
Without.
You just can't hardly beat it, really.
Yeah.
It does, there's clear approaches and everything like that. I don't know. I don't know why it happened, but it seemed like we got our airport before. I hauled passengers when Clermont County went in with my Cherokee 6. When the one went into West Union, the one went into the next one up a little bit farther north of West Union, and I would haul passengers when the airport opened. They would have a fly-in,
Yeah.
and so I hauled passengers for all of the people in the area when the ones that I named was in existence. And a lot of real funny things real quickly. I reminisce, and I look back and almost half laugh myself. I was hauling 6 people. I was actually taking 6 adults with a Cherokee 6, which is a low horsepower one.
Wow.
It wasn't very fast, but that was a load carrying sucker.
Yes, it was.
And once this one went in, then is when I got the 6 to haul rides. And at that time, I think we was getting, I want to think 50 cents to go up and around the pattern.
How about that?
Well, if you had 6 people, that was.
Yeah. Yeah. $3.
But I got to tell you the one, I think it was funnier than anything. It was one that they had in Clermont County, and I was hauling them out of there. And I took a nice little ride down to the new dam when we would put it in, and then come back through Nicholsville and back, and that made that loop, and it took about 15, 20 minutes to give a hill, I think a $2 ride or something like that. It was very reasonable.
Yeah.
We was coming back across, and this woman, she was skittish, but the kids wanted to take an airplane ride. And they had a hell of a time getting Mama to get into the airplane, you know.
Yeah.
Which, there was 6 seats in that airplane. She was in the very back. Probably because her weight. They wanted to load the airplane, so she was in the very back, and we was coming over to Nicholsville, and I had my hand down. I knew it was low on fuel, but usually it would go like that, give me a little warning. And I had my hand on the thing, and I had probably 5 gallons on board. I didn't have that much.
Right.
That was the only way I could haul 6 people.
Yeah.
I couldn't
Right.
put 60 gallon of gas in it.
True.
It's 60 gallon gas, 8 gallon.
And that had basically a wet wing on that airplane. Yeah.
Anyway, that sucker, boom, and it quit. Honest to God, it never quivered, and I never had to do that before. That woman screamed, and I actually had goose feet on me because I thought she got hurt already with that airplane.
Yeah.
And didn't take that long, had my hand on the handle.
Yeah.
Airplane started like this. I said, everything's fine, everything's fine. She's still screaming.
Oh my.
I knew it had happened to me, I knew it had happened to me. The old airplane come back, and I thought that far wall of the airplane come, you know, we're in good shape again. She's still screaming. I said, we'll be all right. I had to change tanks. But those little things stand out in my mind so much that, like I said, this one went in first. Well, then I hauled rides for Clermont County, and then Vinton County, and West Union, and
Hillsborough.
what's another one?
Hillsborough.
Oh yeah, Hillsborough. I know. There's a guy up there now, the airline captain. I took him his first ride when he was 15 years old.
Oh wow.
And his daddy just turned 101 years old down in Florida.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, that's something to brag about. Well, you've talked about a couple of the airports you were operating out of. Did the Clermont County Airport go into operation before Brown County?
No. We was in operation probably maybe a year before Clermont County went in.
Well, then how about West Union?
West Union was the same way. I don't know why, but we seemed like we got the first one. And then the reason I know that, then as these others went in, I was the only one I saw the Bucks there, and they'd have open things, and they'd have a lot of people, and that's when I bought the Cherokee 6 and picked up. Well, I think I really got rich. I think I charged $2 or $3 a head.
Oh yeah, you were up there.
Of course, hell, the gasoline was 60 cents a gallon.
I know.
It wasn't like today.
I know.
And,
yeah. Back then, I can remember.
We did our own maintenance work.
Yeah. Well, back the times you're talking about, I can remember buying gas for the lawnmower 25 cents a
Yeah,
gallon.
yeah.
Well, how about, speaking of airports on either side of you, west of you, east of you, when did Hillsborough come along?
About a year after this one.
Okay, so this was kind of the first one in
Yeah.
the area, and then the others were on the same schedule pretty much.
And I don't know why, whether maybe it was, I don't know.
Yeah.
I've often thought about it. I don't know why we ended up with the first one, but it was just ideal. All I had to do was just come in there and take a grass field and put the blacktop down, and that was it.
And you told me, weren't you the first guy to land here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
1963, and I had my instructors, right, 60, 63, 68. But I was instructed with these guys out here at this little airport here. And I seen one day they was just talking to each other, and I thought,
Yeah.
what the hell's going on? And I wasn't involved. Usually, at least I would do what was going on, And about a week later, Bob Copteen and both of them are dead now. They said, hey, could we borrow the Champ and want to fly this evening? And both of them had their own airplanes,
Yeah.
cheap airplanes. And I said, yeah, you're welcome to it. And they would come back in about a half hour, and I'd had a student, I guess, and in between the next student, they come out and they had a grin face to face. We know something you don't know. And I said, what's going on? Well, at that time, we had Polaroid cameras that you wanted to take a picture and pull it out.
I know, yeah.
Okay. So when I'd landed out here and had taken that picture and put it in my billfold, I thought, I'm going to need that one of these days. It was about 2 or 3 weeks later. And I said, what's that? He said, we just landed on the airport for the first time. And I said, is that right? So I pulled my billfold out and pulled that picture out, and I said, does it look anything like this here? And it's not me being the picture, because I couldn't do that, but
Right.
the airplane's sitting just about, probably 50 feet on the other side of where the taxiway keys goes out.
Uh-huh.
And there's nothing but the very first grass cutting off of it
Wow.
at that time.
Wow.
And I carried that for years. And their face dropped down like that. It's kind of hard to keep ahead of your students.
Yeah. Oh, good for you. Well, let's now I'm going to ask about another airport. It's down on the river. It was down on the river, going towards, maybe it was Maysville? No?
Where the dam is?
I remember you had to go over top, it was on the Ohio side of the river, and you had to go over a bridge to get into it. Oh my goodness, I just now forgot the name of it. It's not there anymore. There's buildings on it.
Well, if it was around the dam, when the dam went in,
Yeah.
they put it was an ex-military, they built the dam and started the construction, and they was having people coming out of Columbus. Well, they went in there, and if you remember years ago, they had what they call cord clamp, and the military in World War II would put these big slabs,
Yeah.
like 8 foot. All right, that's where that airport down there at the dam now was put in, and when they put that in there, I was doing that with a student. I'd say, "You lost an engine," and what am I going to do, And I said, well, there's an airport.
Yeah.
And we used it. I asked him, I said, do you mind if I come in here today? And he said, oh, well, we won't give it.
Yeah.
So I used it a good bit with my students to give them emergency landings. They were out there in the boondocks, and they had no place to land, but
Right.
there's a runway right there.
What was the name of that airport? Do you remember?
Well, they didn't call it an airport. It was just in there temporary when they
Yeah.
put the dam in.
Well,
It
Let
just
me-
was a runway with that metal stuff, and you'd go over it, and it'd rattle. Like a...
I landed on one time.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
Okay.
I landed on one as a youngster with my father was a pilot, and we landed on one, and it just surprised the heck out of me. That noise and rattle.
Oh, well, all them joints, you run it over. And
Yeah, little
and
holes for drainage.
Yeah,
all
and they had
that,
little pins in them about like that because they was flexible.
Yeah.
And when the guys went across the river, that thing would kind of give, and then they could take her up and move her on down the road and do the same thing again.
Aberdeen, does that sound right?
Yeah.
Down on the river, there was a little grass strip,
Yeah.
and I remember we'd
Right
have
across
to,
from that gas station.
yeah, you kind of more or less fly over the bridge and then touch down in that strip. down
If you went in from the
if you're coming from
southeast or something like
yeah.
that.
Okay, I remember
if
there
you-
was a ice cream stand across the
Yeah.
road,
Yeah.
and we'd fly down there and get an ice cream cone and come out.
Yep.
Yeah, that was it.
But it was, they even had a little bit, it was back in World War II that it opened up and they had a little bit of training there. In other words, it wasn't a military operation as such, but they did do some training
a
on the
cadet
airport.
training kind of thing.
But that was right. It's there yet. I could see it, but it's almost built up and everything. You
Yeah.
can't hardly tell where it was happening.
Yeah.
But it
yeah.
run right along the road there.
Exactly.
And you just almost walk across to that restaurant's still there. That gas
be
station is, and that's where we used to go down to go
Yeah.
to get breakfast on a Sunday morning.
Well, I heard something one time. Now, I think it might have started with Governor Rose. It may have already been in place. But I think he had the state had a DC-3
Yeah.
that moved him around.
Yeah.
And I've actually seen that airplane in mothballs out east.
I can't readily do it, but I've got a picture of him coming out the door of the airplane before that building over there was built.
Well, is it true that the different construction sites like the dam and everything, they would build a runway so he could fly in and look at?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
That was the purpose. Yeah.
So,
The people from Columbus
yeah,
come down here and help put that dam in, well, with the knowledge to put that dam in.
right. And yeah, from what I understood, if he was going to some site that didn't have a airport right there, they would bulldoze out a strip and that DC-3 would go in
Well,
there.
the first time that I heard about it, he said, I want a hard surface, all-weather airport in every county in in Ohio. And if it serves me right, by memory, I think he put in something like 80 some.
Wow,
I mean, a bunch of them.
that's a lot.
Now, Columbus, yeah, Cincinnati goes back way back to the 30s, but almost all of the other ones was that, and that's when this Mac tool over here, I call it Mac tool because they was the first ones, but that was one of them that came in right after this airport came in here, but it's never survived. It's
Yeah.
never, well, we had my wife ran a small, what we call a sundry store in there where the hardware store is at now. Well, that was a sundry store, and we ran that for about 20 some years. She did. And the two drugstores just hated us because we had a discount.
Oh.
It was one of the first discounts that hit Georgetown. And their toothpaste was $2, and ours was $1.89 or something like that. And they didn't like us at all.
Right.
So they gave us a lot of trouble. They wasn't friendly to us at all.
I see. Well, it is fascinating when you think about where airports developed, the story behind them. Of course, the governor was behind a lot of this, like you say, the county airports that wouldn't have had anything but a grass strip had it not been for him. And there's one, maybe you know the answer to this. You familiar with New Richmond?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Down on the west side of town, if you can imagine that main street that parallels the river, by the restaurants and everything, going west towards Cincinnati.
George Power Plant
Yeah.
from town.
And before you get to this is the downtown street, and it takes kind of a bend to the north.
Where Freeshies was.
Yeah. All right. down there, there was a long strip down there, and the ultralight guys used to fly out of there. I can remember a few years back.
I've landed there.
Okay, was that one of the governor's strips?
No.
It wasn't.
That was private.
Okay.
There was a lot of, right at the time that he came in here, there was a lot of little grass strips around.
Yeah.
That the guys from the World War II was Hillsborough. I remember that building up there, but where the Hillsborough Airport was, not where it's at now. It was on the road between Hillsborough and what would be the next one down over? No. Anyway, the road that runs east and west out of Hillsborough, there was a big, real nice runway and everything like that, and the barn had a big circle on it, yet clear back into the 50s and 60s. I remember seeing, and what they do would put that circle and then air, and that was for guys that didn't have radios or anything else, and that was pointing to the closest airport.
Oh.
That's what that circle was. And then it had air just like that.
Okay. Well, was that on Route 50?
Yes.
Was that between Hillsborough and Fayetteville? About halfway, maybe?
Yep. On the north side of the road.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Kerry Hutchison learned to fly there, and one day he and I jumped in my airplane, the Taylorcraft. We went looking for it. And of course, the landscape had changed. You know, it had been farmed. But he found a building up there he recognized from the air.
Yep.
It turned into an equipment shed, not a hangar. But that's the only reason I knew about that.
Used to have a big old round circle with a air pointing that direction. It was designated. That was for people that was flying back years ago that see their pants.
Right.
And that was a way of telling you there's an airport here and there's where it goes. And you followed that.
Nice.
Yeah,
You know, one thing I miss about airports is a compass rose. Remember, every airport had a compass rose because you had to have a calibrated compass if you're going cross country. And the last one I used was up in Hillsborough, and for all I know, it's disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
I can remember it, but I don't know what, a lot of that kind of stuff, I don't remember what happened to it or anything like that.
Well, as avionics came along.
I would drive from here up to Hillsborough, probably 2 or 3 years in the wintertime and have ground school.
Oh.
And it was on Main Street, what was the guy's name? He had a filling station there. But anyway, there was a basement in this building, and it had a pretty nice area, and I rented it. I don't know, it was 50 cents or $50 a month or something like that, and had ground school in there. I would go to different towns and do ground school in the wintertime.
Wow.
And put in, what was it? Seemed like 12 weeks.
For the school
For the test, written test.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Yep. That's impressive. So would you meet 5 days a week or once a week?
No, usually it was Saturday evening. We'd have 1 hour or 2 hours a week, a month.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
Probably a week.
Yeah. I remember the one in Hammersville, and my mother and father went to it, and they had little or no knowledge about aviation.
Yeah.
And they went through my ground school.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. How about that? Well, it's that's one thing that I guess when people think about flying, they don't think about the ground school portion of it.
No. Well, and you had to get through that test.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
well, what was your average class size?
about 20.
20.
Yeah.
Wow.
Surprising how a lot of people did it. It was winter time and there was nothing really else to do.
Yeah.
They said, well, I'd like to learn a little bit about that. And they come in, my mother and father, and they was in their 50s, and they had no clue in the world why they would ever want to do or take a test, but they went through the class, and passed the test.
They passed
That's the end
ground
of the
school. Oh, that's neat. Oh, golly.
But I think more than anything, it was the kid was doing it.
Yeah.
He was doing something, doing me a favor too.
Well, that's gosh. You know, think about what we've talked about here when your interest in airplanes and when you're a youngster in school and airplanes started showing up around here after the war and the warriors were coming home and putting in grass strips on their farms.
You probably wouldn't believe it, but that ticket that got me into aviation is the last ticket I've ever had. I've had a couple warnings.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's
I've never had
you decided, okay, I'm gonna park the car and go flying, huh?
And ain't nobody gonna give me the ticket up there. They gotta catch me.
There you go.
I tell you, it was something else too. I damn near quit. I was ferrying a Bonanza back from Washington. I went up there and looked at a helicopter. Now this would have been, I don't know, 10 years ago maybe, 15. We'll just say somewhere in that area. And I was by myself, and it was raining in New York, and I came out of there and came up, got to Pittsburgh, and weather was pretty marginal, and then it kind of got a little bit better. And I was coming across the northern part of Ohio, and it was just about, I'd say probably, maybe right at the Ohio, Pennsylvania border, and got into some rain, and it was pretty nasty. And I got down my altitude, down the minimum route was 6,000 feet, and got down to there and started picking up ice. I was in the Bonanza, and I called Cleveland Center down to Cleveland. I said, I'm picking up some ice. I got to get up higher. I was at minimum en route, and they said, stand by. Well, at that time it was Allegheny Airlines was flying out of there. Allegheny called them and said, hey, we're picking up a lot of ice. And I was too. I got to a place where I just had a little bit I could see, and the ice the water was running like this. And I'm peeping around it, and I'm at 6,000 feet. And they said, stand by. I said, okay. And I stand by. I said, I got to climb out. Give me some altitude. He said, it's freezing worse at 10,000, and I was I forget what the airplane was, but I don't know I couldn't get to 10,000 feet. And I'm sweating blood. And me and the man upstairs had a little talk to. I said, if you get me out of this, I'll never do it again. And it couldn't have been, it was so bad that I could see nothing. Wow. And as I could see it, it's as plain as day. And the first thing you know, he was a little trickle of water going past me like that on the window. Oh. I thought, boy, she's breaking up. And I went to minimum altitude, and then I went to a little lesser minimum because I was just a little bit northeast of Columbus. And I knew there was no mountains up there like that. It was 6,000 feet. I felt pretty good about getting down to 1,000 foot or so.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, get me out of this. I'll never be here again. And he did. And the first thing you know, that water got streaming past me like that.
Right.
I thought, thank you, Lord.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
And I never flew instrument after that.
Really?
No.
Well, I know there's situations, whether it's instrument or VFR, where the old saying goes, you can fill your pants. Mm-hmm. And I know all aviators have it. Yeah. And that's a wonderful story that you.
Well, it's all right unless you're there.
Yeah, you can brag about it now.
As long as you can talk about it, it's all right. But
yeah.
Boy, I tell you what, when you sitting there and don't know what the hell's going to happen, and
I had a deal one time similar to yours. I was bringing an airplane back from northern Ohio one morning, and you know how the fog is mm-hmm. on the river at Lunkin. Mm-hmm. It can just go total eye fog. And weather said it should be gone by the time you get here. So I figured, remember they had the weather station right there at Lunken Airport in the terminal. Okay, these guys got their, they know what's going on. So I was up in Bowling Green, Ohio, and I was coming back, and clear skies coming down. But the thing about it, radio antennas, the old red and white, they were sticking up above the clouds, and I thought, that stuff's low. But these clouds are, the antennas are up.
About 100 foot.
So I came down and approached, asked me to swing west of Lunken and make a circle over the river and come back. And if you recall, when you drive down Columbia Parkway towards the city, there's some towers sticking up. That's what was through the clouds. And
See, that was the first, I don't know whether you knew that or not, that was the first tower in the United States. When they put the very first ones in.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, there they were, sticking above the clouds. Well, I circled around, and I came around, and they told me, okay, and I'm on instruments. Yeah, it was VFR on top, but I was instrument all the way down from Bowling Green. They said, you've got clearance underneath, to make an IFR approach. So everything running smooth, no traffic. I enter, get in. Well, I meant to tell you, this was wintertime. The surface of the airplane was cold, being up high.
Sure.
I descended into that wet fog from that river, and the windshield fogged up right now.
Yeah.
And I'm on final. And the only reason I knew I broke out was because the side windows weren't fogged up, but the front one was. I didn't have a heating pad or anything up there. And I don't know, kind of like you, just things kind of happened. There was the runway, I'm looking out the side window, and I managed to land looking out the side window. And I got some congratulations from the tower.
Yeah.
I thought, I'm not going to do that anymore. Yeah, I'll go elsewhere. I won't push it like that anymore. But it's flying is such a fascinating event, and with the talent that you have, I mean, it's laid out in these log books. It's in your plaque with the association. You have done so much for aviation. I mean, the development of Brown County Airport, the interest in aviation, even if people didn't go on and get a flying license, you educated a lot of people about what keeps an airplane in the air and, navigation and everything. Like you said, your parents went and they had more knowledge of their son's hobby when they came away. But you've done a marvelous job. I mean, and I thank you as an aviator that has come along.
I think in all fairness, I appreciate what you're saying, but at the same time, all of my students, and I'd say for at least 10 or 12 years after this airport went in, the county commissioner says I don't have nothing to do with it. And he didn't. And we was out here and we rode the 9.8 Ford tractor that does about 5-6 miles an hour.
Okay.
And we would take turns mowing this airport.
Wow.
Once every 3 or 4 weeks, something like that, in the
Yeah.
summertime.
Wow.
And all the students, my students would take turns riding that damn tractor. And a lot of people don't realize that, but the previous engineer said, I want nothing to do with it. There'll be no money spent out of the county on it.
I hear
And
you.
if it hadn't have been for the people that was here at this airport, it would not be here today because Aberdeen,
West Union?
West Union had closed up. The one north of there had closed up. Hillsborough came close to closing up. And they didn't have a flight instructor. And for about 2 years, I flew every Sunday. I went up there and fly as much as 5 or 6, maybe 7, 8 hours.
Wow.
Giving instruction in Hillsborough before they ever even got somebody in the airport.
Wow. Well, that brings up a point. I mean, this airport is doing well thanks to you and the people that, have contributed to it in many different ways. West Union, what happened over there? Why did that fail?
Just lack of somebody taking taking it by the horns and operating. And the county says, no, dude, there it is. They put it in, and it closed. It went pretty good right at first. There was some air shows and things up like that, and I got a little couple trophies in there. My son, the Bonanza people in Lunkin said, put out the thing. We're going to have a spot landing contest at West Union this when they had fly-in. Well, hell, my son and I was flying off of just a minimum on our farms over there and things like that. And we went up there, and I got some trophies there I could show you. And he and I won first and second place about all of the bags.
Good for you.
These guys come out there with their fancy banana, and they was going to wipe our ass, you know.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen.
Right.
This is all we ever had.
Yes.
They come off that blacktop down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good story.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my
Yeah,
goodness.
they was going to put us down. I even got a trophy sitting there.
I know you've got some back here.
And,
Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
But it's a funny thing too. I just beginning with the junkyard. I was working the junkyard. I was working at the Sunday store, and I was flight instructing. And I worked for CG&E. In the '60s, I had 5 jobs I was maintaining
All at once?
all at once.
Oh, my goodness.
And the word got around to, McKinney's done pretty good. He's running drugs out of Florida. I was going to Florida down there at that time, first time. And, he's running drugs. And that went around. And unbeknownst to them, I was hauling the deputy sheriffs around, and we was finding corn, or
The marijuana.
marijuana in the fields. And I had a son-in-law that had planted some on my damn farm, and I found it.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I've seen it between the corn rows.
Yeah. Oh, it's just about, if you could have a green field, it looks just about like that.
Wow.
It just
Yeah.
say, here I am.
Yeah.
And
Amazing.
the sheriff's deputy said, there she is, this little farm down there. And they'd go down and cut her all down.
Yeah.
They had done a bunch of it. Then they'd walk away from the rest home out here at Locust Ridge.
Uh-huh.
And it was just a very got started there. And somebody said, it's a pretty day, I'm going to go take a walk. And they called me 2 or 3 times, say, hey, we got one walked away. So would you come help us? I said, yeah. So I had a champ at that time, and I jumped the champ. And of course, if he was out in the cornfield, hell, you could walk for days down there and never see one of them.
Right.
But when I'm looking down from the airport, well, there she is, right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I did that for, I don't know, at least 4 or 5 years. And they'd be sitting by the shade tree, sitting there just like it was nothing. They just didn't want to be up there that damn rest of them. And I said, there she is, sitting under that big tree down there, go down to get her. And they'd walk down there and walk her back home.
Oh, my. Good
But
for
I
you.
did that 2 or 3 times. It didn't like I said, I was accused. I had the junkyard, and I was working at Cincinnati Gas and Electric. I was running the helping June with the Sunday store up there, and flight instructor. I had 5 jobs I was trying to maintain, and it got pretty full schedule.
Yeah. You were going in all different directions at once. That's amazing. That is an amazing story.
Where's the bragging and the facts and things like that? They kind of overlap there, and I don't mean for it to be that way, but I've been blessed in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And it wasn't all my doing. And I was sincere about that. Even this, 90 years old, I was still talking.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I've enjoyed, a lot of the people didn't realize either. They got the idea, they said, okay, we're gonna plat the whole county, and we're gonna have our own map. So they came to me, and I had a 185 sister at that time, and they said, we need to take pictures of the whole county. I said, well, I can do that. And they said, well, we've got to cut a hole in the bottom of the airplane, put a camera in there. I said, I ain't so damn sure I want you to do that. They said, well, we've got to have this camera so that you fly, we'll tell you how you'd fly, and they take a picture of that plot right there. Just like that tile. Then you take a picture of that tile.
Yeah.
And that's how they platted this whole county. And I flew the damn thing that way.
Wow.
And you talk about boring. Jesus criminy.
Well, let me ask you, what did you do to stay on course? I know you couldn't.
Well,
they'd
give me headache. They had something, I don't know what they was using now, but he was sitting in the back seat.
Yeah.
And he had this camera outfit right there on the floorboard, and I was in the front, and then most of the time they'd have a deputy or something like that to ride along with me. And that's the way they platted out. They're really, you know, and I don't know if they ever used it. I never did see it or anything, but that was done.
So yeah, they would give you a heading. I'm sure there was a little overlap with every one.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. I mean, when you think
in
about,
my mind, we was about a mile apart.
Okay.
About, I swear.
Yeah. I mean, you think about winds aloft and you know, clouds creating shadows versus sun shining on things. That's interesting. That was interesting.
And you know, I'm still the same way. In my own airplane, now I've flown 14,000 feet in a nice airplane. But in a small plane, I was always feeling a little bit about the height. I don't know why, it just, the higher I got, the smaller I felt. I think this guy called me today. He said, would you take me out? And he dropped me with a parachute. And I said, what's the deal? And he said, hey, he said, we down at the bar. And he said, I bet these guys $50 I could hit an inner tube in a high river. He said, I want you to drop me out. I said, shit, I don't know what I want to do there or not. He said, well, you have to take a door off, because he said, I have to stand in the doorway and jump out.
Right.
Well, I had reservations about this. I ain't the bravest guy in the world. I might be telling you a story, but I ain't so damn brave when it comes down to it. And I don't normally fly that high. In something bigger, yeah. But in those small, the higher I get, the smaller I feel.
Yeah, there's
so
the
anyway,
planet way down there.
Well, shit. I said, okay, I'll take you out. Well, he bet these guys at the bar. He said, I'll bet you that $5 was a big deal. He said, I'll bet you $1 I could hit an inner tube in a high river from 10,000 feet. Well, he was from over there in Withamsville, or Williamsburg. He just bar fly. So he said, would you take me up? And I said, yeah. And I said, I'm not too keen on it. He said, well, you got to take the door off. Well, that may be even less so. And I'd never done this before.
Right, okay.
And shit got off the ground, and all the damn paperwork and shit like that was flying around,
Of course, yeah.
I forgot about that. We went to 10,000 feet, and I'll tell you what, I was just about as nervous as a cat on a hot tin roof now.
What were you flying?
185.
185.
Took the door off of it. And he's garbed, hell, he's got shit flaps and all that, or belts and all that kind of stuff. And I took the seat out, and he's sitting over with his foot on this gear leg like that. And I said, we'll have to go. And he said, they're going to be watching me from a bar there in New Richmond. I said, okay. I said, no. So I got down there, and I was a 10.5, I think. He said, this will be good. So I dumped him out, and I like to dirty my pants. When he jumped out, the fucking airplane went like this.
Wow, yeah,
well,
yeah.
I was scared anyway, because I never flew that kind. I flew most of the stuff, that was almost all my life, 5 or 6,000 feet. And we're at 10.
Yeah.
Well, here's my airplane going like this, and I'm actually holding on myself. He not only missed the inner tube, he missed the river. The damn wind had changed from what he thought.
Yeah.
He landed over northern Kentucky, packed his parachute up, and hitchhiked. And they said he never came to that bar for about 2 months.
He had to
Because
pay
he
up.
owed all them guys.
Well, let me ask you, how in the world was he going to pick out an inner tube from up there?
Well, hell, the guys now, they could stand up on the inner tube. They're so good.
Okay.
But he wasn't that good.
Ah,
And at that 10,000 feet, when you start falling, there's wind could be doing different
Oh,
things.
sure.
You know, it's not just, it ain't like it is on the ground
I
always.
know. That's
That's
a
the
good
only time I ever dropped anybody out of the airplane. I said, they ain't going to do that again.
Yeah,
Because it scared me.
what a story. Oh, my goodness.
I tell you what, I feel embarrassed. I know you guys are busy, but this means an awful lot to me.
Good.
And I've never, ever had the opportunity to sit down and pass some of this off on. And you guys don't know whether it's bullshit or not, but everything I'm telling you actually happened.
I can believe that. I have no doubt. No doubt.
And then there's some bad signs about it. I was flying off this strip right up here with Waldsburg, and it came in one night at must have been about 11 o'clock, and I had my Scott with me, the one that runs the junkyard, and he never was really into aviation too much. He's all right, he wouldn't say too much. And it was about, hell, it must have been about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and when I got up here, and I flew, well, what we did, we'd fly up 125, through Peoria, Bethel, Hamerville, Georgetown, turn on there was enough traffic, we turned at 68,
Sure.
we go to Waldsburg, and we're circling up there, and there was a little grass strip there. Well, it's there today, if you look, there's a little old barn right in the middle of that field. And my buddy owned the farm, and we'd go up there, and I'd take the bar and the restaurant and the gas station there, and then that'd be my downwind leg, and I'd go downwind, and I could sell where the road was in the morning and come over and make my turn. And I turned about one field too soon. And it came in and was doing, well, at that time, it was doing 100 mile an hour in that 185.
Okay.
It would come in, and by the time my lights picked up the trees, I was one field too far over, and I was probably within, I'd say, 200 or 300 feet of the trees.
Wow.
Of crashing into them.
Ouch.
And of course, that old 185, you firewalled it, that son of a bitch. It didn't climb, it shot up.
Good.
It shot,
Yeah.
it emptied of the weight. And he's on the other side, and he's holding on like this.
Yeah.
And the trees was right in front of us, and we went up over to the trees, and I saw what I'd done. Went about another time, and see, all we had was light was on the airplane. I came back and got the landing and landed down, and that boy wouldn't fly with me for I don't know how many years. And he don't even care about it today.
Oh, boy.
It scared him so bad.
Well, that happens. It's a shame that happened. But you know, that's life. I mean, it might not be aviation. It could be something else that will scare us, and we're thinking, I'm having second thoughts.
You can't get it out of your system.
Sometimes you can't.
It's
Yeah.
still in the back of your mind.
Well, you talk about, let me run a landmark past you. I know you operated out of Lunken a lot. And when I used to live over there in the city and fly out of that airport, I do a lot of instrument trips. And if you were landing to the south, okay, IFR, you know, you come over that little you come over Fairfax.
Yeah.
Right before you get there. And there was that Frisch's. You remember where the Frisch's sat on Route 50? Well, the saying was, if you were on short final, you know, and you're waiting to break out, if you could see the big boy at Frisch's, you got it made.
Yeah.
In other words, if you see him, you're underneath it, and it always worked for me.
Yeah.
I could fly the glide path down, waiting to see some runway lights, and the next thing I know, I'd be glancing off to the right, and there's Frisch's big boy. And I thought, I got this one, you know. And just a second or two later, there would be the runway lights out ahead of me.
Did you read that book, on Fairfax Road?
Yeah.
Did you read? Do you remember in there he's telling about the 180 that you can see the top of the wing.
I don't remember that. I remember you mentioning it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
he put the book, and I didn't remember at the time, but I did afterwards. That was the first really high performance single engine that came in around here. That was '62. And I bought that airplane. There's three of them had been bought to go over to the Arabic countries, and they were spraying over there for locusts.
Oh.
And the airplane came back and had 203 total time hours on a '62 185.
Wow. Yeah.
It was a beautiful airplane. They had kind of taken some of the stuff out for weight-wise and
Right.
things like that. But anyway, I had it delivered at Lunkin. I went down there and I said, Don, would you ride with me? He said, yeah. He said, I'd like to fly that airplane. So we went down where you was talking about, down there where Babbitt was at on that, what runway was that, 220 or something like that? It goes over the levee.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
anyway, it was only like 3,000 feet, something like that. And he got in, he said, can I fly it? And I said, sure. I said, I don't have any time in it here to speak of. They delivered it, and I'd got the airplane, it was down there, but I had actually got checked out that much. Let me show you what this baby will do. We took off there where his restaurant was,
Yeah.
and he fireballed that sucker, and we was like that.
Wow.
When we went over the levee, we was at 5,000 feet.
Oh my goodness.
And
Wow.
the people talked about that yet today. He said it's the only time you could see the top of an airplane wing on climb out.
There you go. Oh wow.
And but I tell you what, Don, he was personality wise, he could be grumpy like all of us kind of time,
Yeah.
but he was a hell of a pilot.
Yeah. He and
Hell of a
his
pilot.
family and that organization.
He gave me
offered
all
a
my
lot.
check rides.
Yeah.
And Pat, I got a lot of time with Pat. She never was a pilot. She was just the bunny, you know.
Uh-huh. Now he had a couple of daughters. Did they get
Yeah.
into aviation?
They come into the office, but I never saw any of them that did that much. Joe Teriyaka. You didn't know
I
him?
didn't know him.
Well, he was one I rode with a good bit. The one we had the single engine out, and he was a bachelor, lived at home, 55 years old when I met him, but he loved to fly.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of time with him, and we did a lot of stuff. We could have got hurt, but we think the good Lord was looking over us, and he said, you know, they'll take care of fools and something else. He looks over fools and something else.
Fools and pilots.
I was blessed with the fact of getting in the very early part of the aviation in Southwest Ohio.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
as soon as I got through just as soon as I'd get through a rating, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 different kinds of ratings.
14 ratings.
And about everything that I can think except the airlines. I mean,
Yeah. Wow.
we had,
Well, let me ask you, do you have any clue what your total time is?
I don't know exactly what's on those, what is there? This one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And how many pages would be in one of them?
I mean, I just wondered if you, a ballpark.
I thought that I kept up with them for a long while, but you can see here.
Yeah.
But most of them would have almost everything was just hour at a time.
Yeah.
On
yeah.
the log, and then you got probably, I don't show how many pages.
Look in the front. Some of these books have where you carry over from the previous book.
There was some of it was.
Yeah, some of those do. Well, it's amazing. Well, that's,
I think I had every rating except airline at one
Yeah.
time.
okay. Well, now, this might have been your last log. Just a couple of pages and that's it.
Well, that might be on that particular one.
But, dual, solo.
This is, well, they're kind of mixed up because this one here is just a moment for, this is the roadway exec here.
Well, would you say 10,000? With all the instructing, cross-country, hopping from pasture
I would
to
say
pasture?
between 8 and 10 because I've been flying for 60 years.
And you think about the different birds you've flown. They're not these big jets that you rack up 10 hours going to another continent.
No, it was all,
All just hopping around.
biggest thing I really have flown is just a twin engine
Yeah, yeah,
and not jet time.
right. Well, that's fabulous. Thank you so much, Charlie.
I've
been a pleasure, man.
You don't know how much I appreciate just being able to pass this on to somebody. And I know it sometimes it gets boring, but
No, never.
it's surprising how many times I have wished that somebody would sit down with me and let me pass this on. I really appreciate that.
Oh, well, we're
It,
thankful to you
it,
for sharing.
Well, I didn't really plan it. It just, good Lord, He created the situation. I followed what He said.
There you go.
But there's a lot more stories.
Well, you take your notepad and make notes, and maybe we can do this again.
One more little quick one. Tell you the thing with this guy that I started flying with, he didn't give a shit about nothing. He don't follow no rules or anything. Well, we started going up clear on the other side of Michigan, clear up on the whatever the lake is above Michigan,
Okay.
and go clear up there. And he found a place, and it was a little old log cabin right on. What is that? Lake Superior?
You got Superior, you got Lake Michigan,
All the way, the one right north of Ohio.
not Erie.
All the way up 68, all the way up, clear up, across the Mackinac Bridge
Okay,
on the Upper Peninsula.
okay, yeah.
One day he said, hey, he said, I found a place to go fishing. Let's go fishing up there. And I said, damn, when you go up there, you could just, every time you throw something in the water and do something to eat it, it was that good. So we went, he said, now he had 4 kids, and he just had him and his wife. So he'd always take Scott, because Scott was always getting in trouble. He loved Scott because Scott would just do anything he told him to do.
Okay.
So we're flying up through there, and I had my 3 kids and wife, and and I said, Bernard, I'm getting a little bit low on gas. He said, well, there's a little airport just north of us. He said, stop up there. He said, about 10, 15 miles. He said, just a grass strip. He said, don't look like an airport, but he said, it is, it's got gas. Well, I go up there and I couldn't fight. I don't see no damn gas pumps. And the guy was mowing grass over here with a tractor. So it was just a regular field. So I landed in that field, taxied up there, and his eyes were about that big.
I bet so.
What the hell are you doing? And I said, you guys got any gas? He said, gas? What do you mean? I said, well, I'm out of gas in the airport. I said, I'm in and out at the airport. And he said, no, he said, it's about 5 miles on up there. And I just landed there, and talked to him. He told me he was mowing that grass. Yeah. He just get the airplane and go again. I was so ignorant on flying and things, and anything that he said, well, yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
But just like I've landed on all the new roads that's been built here before they opened them up.
There you go.
And
Yeah.
I've had state patrols behind me. They knew damn well who it was. Never had one to ever come and say anything about it. That was when it was ready to be open, but it wasn't open.
Right.
And one coming out of Mount Orb, that's a straight stretch there. You can't see the end of that sucker.
Yeah.
Hell, I could landed 15 times between here and
Right. Get all your touchy goes in. Yeah. That's good. That's good stories.
Oh, I don't know. That you probably might have got about half of it.
Well, you know what you're talking about. You couldn't get away with it now because there's so many traffic cameras.
Oh no, you couldn't do any of that hardly now.
Oh boy.
And I went to Florida the first time, and I was lost 90% of the time on the way down there.
Well,
I was
the
going
thing
east to west.
I found out when you go to different parts of the country, you know, geographically, whether it's in the mountains and it's wooded, you go down south where it's flat land and there's water here, there, and down there. It confuses. I get disoriented.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, that was my landmark, but now it doesn't look like it. I'm close, and there's the same thing everywhere. But yeah, you know, I just look at the old compass and that old whiskey compass and keep flying.
Jenny down here, I bought a, what the hell is that? The last airplane that Paul Poberindi built.
Who was that? Who built?
The one that Paul Poberindi.
Oh yeah,
The last one.
Well, there was the Pixie, not the Pixie.
No.
No. I don't know which one.
Anyway, it's sitting in the hangar down there in Florida.
Uh-huh.
And Jenny and I was coming down and bringing it down from Oshkosh, and we'd been following a front, rain.
Yeah.
And we'd go so far, and it's get into the rain, we'd land. We landed in Chicago, stayed there overnight, and got down into a high, and got on 125, and it was still raining. And it was getting dark, and I told her, I said, Jenny, I don't think I could make Georgetown. It was so bad. Visibility was so bad.
Mm.
And we started towards Clermont County, and it was just literally pouring down. And I said, I can't do this, Jenny. We went back and picked up about 125, and flew it up to Georgetown and landed up here
How about that?
about an hour after dark.
Yeah, yeah. And it's a good thing you knew the territory. Yeah. Oh my, yeah.
Yes, the old boy says, guys, you can believe what you want of it, but it's every bit of the way it was.
Gee, well.
And I wouldn't give anything in the world for the experience and the people that I've met.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
I really appreciate what you're doing. It's something that I've thought about doing for 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to go about it. And I could just sit here and think about things, so many more incidents that happened while I was instructor and things like that.
Yeah.
I guess to tell you this last one. His wife's a beautician up here. He's dead now. But anyway, I was giving him his duel. He was coming out going over just a regular farm fence
Yeah.
in a little champ. It was in a champ.
Okay.
And we came across, he was just ready to solo. And we came across the fence and hit pretty hard. And I thought, well, ain't no problem. And she started in a big circle. I said, right rudder, Bill, right red rudder, Bill, right rudder. And all of a sudden, there's this damn electric fence right in front of us.
Ow.
And I was on the brakes, the wheels were sliding, and hit that electric fence, and she went bing like that, and the prop cut that electric fence in half.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was trying. I thought we was gonna break the wing off of it or something like that. And I said, Bill, what'd you do? And he said, I wasn't doing anything. I said, well, you didn't put any rudder in. And I put on it, and he said, there wasn't no rudder. And when we come in, and he had hit the tail wheel and broke the spring on one side, and when the ground hit the ground, the tail wheel went all the way around like that.
Castered. Yeah.
It was in August, it was hotter than hell.
Yeah.
We was sweating after that happened because I thought we was going to wreck. And I said, well, go up there and get it, and we'll put it back together. And I didn't think anything about it. You ever get stung with an electric fence? It'll give you a damn jolt now.
Oh, yes.
It'll shake you all the way down to your roots. So we went and got the other end, and I said, here. And I give him, he had one end and one side, and it was still hot. And he's going, yeah, ah! And he couldn't let go of it.
Oh my goodness, that hot.
This was like, it seemed like a half hour. It couldn't have been 5 seconds.
Yeah.
He couldn't let go of it, with one hand like that. He was trying, but he couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And she's a beautician right up here on the corner. And I told her the other day, I said, you remember that? She said, well, I don't know anything about it, but she said, I remember it happening. And he was pissed now. His face turned just about as red as that thing here.
Yeah.
And he's going to whip Charlie's ass. And I wouldn't have done nothing to him. I wouldn't have given a shit because it was my fault, really. But if he had hit so hard, broke that, then it was his fault.
Yeah.
But I had 2 or 3 occasions like that. And one guy, I told him, I said, take it around. He said, oh, I can get it stopped. Well, we did. We stopped when we hit the fence.
Oh.
So when I hit the damn steel post, and I got the strut on the wing like that, and it hit the strut just about that head high. And he said they lived right out here on this side road. And after we got stopped, I said, what did you do? And he said, I was going to go around. And he said, then I changed my mind. And then by the time he changed his mind a couple of times, we hit the damn fence.
Yeah. Well, you talked about, is the remnants of that strip still back over here that you used to fly out of?
Yeah, but they built some buildings on it now.
Oh, okay.
But if you go right straight, if you go out and down that road and you make a bend like that in the road, there's some new subdivision down here. And then there's a road goes off to the left. It's about a half mile back there. And it was perfect. It had a nice strip, had him a little T-hanger there.
Yeah.
And that was before this one here, of course, went in. That's where I probably flew out of there about, I guess I got some pictures where I think at one time there's probably 12, 13 airplanes out there. I know by 185 sat out there, and it sat there for 2 years. I just didn't have the heart to sell it. And finally I did, and that's the biggest mistake I ever made.
Oh, yeah. They're good airplanes.
The damn things is $200,000 now. I give $10,500 for it. Sold it for $14,500. Thought I made money.
Yeah. Can't replace it now.
Give it away.
Yeah. Well, talking about strips, if I come down, if I hop off of 32 up there and get on Hamer and come down this way, okay, you follow me? There's a road up there called Tracy that crosses Hamer. Are either one of y'all familiar with that? Anyhow, there is what looks like the remnants of an old airstrip. And I mean, the grove...
Off of 68?
Off of Hamer. Road. I'm trying to think of a landmark. But if you're...
Well, there's a little one just to go out of doors, or Mount Orb, on the right-hand side.
No, I don't think it's that one. Sometime, if y'all are up that way, if you're going up Hamer from here, and you're going north, and I just cannot right off think of a good landmark, but there's a crossroad, a little small crossroad, and it's called Tracy, Tracy maybe, it's the name of it. As soon as you pass that, there's forest, a stand of forest on either side of the road, and then there's all of a sudden this, it looks like an equipment shed, but it could very well have been a T-hanger.
I'll be damned.
And then if you go further on and you look back, the trees are cut back perfect all the way to Tracer, and a line comes all the way down to Hamer, like that was a runway at one time, a grass strip.
It seemed to me like I've heard a little bit about it, but I don't know exactly where you're saying either.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been just some natural
But just
sediment.
as you go out of Mount Orb there, there was a guy he's got an airplane's been in the barn for Bobby Florence. He's tried his best to buy it, and it's been in there for 30 years.
Now, you go north out of Mount Orb or south?
It's on the right-hand side of the road as you go up before you get to Green Bush. And I can't think of his name now. Bobby would know him because he's been
What kind of airplanes he got?
just some coming over airplane.
Yeah.
If it's been, I know it goes back at least 40, 50 years.
I see.
And he dad used to it. He come right out to 68, and the runway was right there. And he hit him a hanger back here.
Yeah.
And Bobby, he went up and tried to buy it way back when it was just, and the guy just wouldn't sell it.
I'll be darned. Yeah. Yeah, that's it's fun once in a while to come across a surprise like that, you know.
But that one down there at New Richmond along the river, I flew down there pretty regular when I was working there, and the guys that I rode to work with, I just fly down there and then walk out to the highway, and they'd pick me up, take me on down to the
Right.
plant. And
Yeah.
Evening, I go up and get in the airplane.
I went down there one day to visit a friend, and I took that route just because I'd heard some ultralights had been flying out of there. And as I drove real slow down around that bend, like you going into town, and sure enough, I could hear those Rotax motors. And I looked, and a guy lost power on takeoff, and between the end of the runway and the road that goes into downtown, there was a lot of tall stuff like bamboo and this and that. And he had his dog on board. And he and his dog went right into that patch of bamboo. And, I mean, the wings folded, and he just and I got out of the car.
I'm sitting there thinking, I know that guy's name, but it's back there someplace, but I can't.
and the dog came running out, and out of this big patch of stuff. I looked in there, and you could see where he cut through, and I saw the tail, and I hollered in. And he said, he had a few cuss words. He said, "Yeah, I'm okay. Damn it."
I can't think of his name. I know it. I know him well.
Oh, yeah. Well, this has been fun, guys. I've enjoyed this. Thank you.
I hope I haven't bored you too much.
Oh,
but it's something that I have wished probably for 20 years to be able to do.
Good.
And I'm glad you finally took. I didn't know how to go about it, and I wanted to pass some of that along, and I know there's going to be people that say, I remember that,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, I didn't know that. Well, I want to thank Charlie for taking the time to do this. It's been so much fun.
Well, it's funny because I've always wanted to do it, and I didn't know how to get about doing it.
Well, we've got to give credit to
You know,
Ray.
it borderlines on bragging and storytelling.
Right.
And I don't want it to sound like that because everything that I've told you has been true.
I can believe
And
that. Yeah, I can believe that.
I haven't glamorized anything. And I've been there, and this boy, she'd be tuckered up like that.
Well,
And I've often thought the good Lord's been good to me, and I sometimes wonder. I mean, all the things that I've gone through. Luckily, somebody was looking over me, because I pulled some motors.
we all do. Yeah. Well,
Thank goodness I
yeah.
didn't get.
You didn't get snagged.
Yeah. I just tickled that maybe some of this stuff that the average person don't know what happened 50 years ago.
Exactly.
And how it came about.
Yeah. That's the important thing about it is, you go someplace, whether it's downtown, and there are all these buildings around it, and you don't know what was there before those big buildings. Or you come into a strip like this, and you don't know all the effort that went in to create and maintain this strip. It's wonderful that the stories are still there. We just got to record them.